Hello everyone, today I'm going to teach you how to debug a script using Grimport Script Editor. The first thing you want to do is have your script open and then decide which method of debugging you want to use. There are two main methods of debugging. One involves step-by-step mode, which lets you go through every single line, and the other one is the breakpoint mode, where you can select which lines you want to stop at. Now, to add a breakpoint, you just have to select the line at which you want to stop. One important thing to keep in mind is that this circle takes into account everything before the start of this line, so you won't actually be debugging this specific line when you put a breakpoint here. So let's select a few lines. After that, you can press on the Debug the Script button to start debugging. As you can see, we have stopped right here before the second line starts. If you want to check a variable, we can click here and you can see that we have message1, but we don't have number. Now let's click on message1. As you can see, it displays exactly what is in message1. Now to go to the next breakpoint, you can press this button. And when we check the variables, we can see that number and number 2 have been added. And now let's click again, and we can see text 1 has been added too. If you want to stop the debugging, just click on the stop button. Make sure to have disabled the step-by-step mode deselected. Then you can start the debugging process. To go to a line, click on the play button. And you will now arrive in the first line. As you can see, you can't see the variable title, so we're going to go to the next line. And then we can see the title is now available to see. You can continue clicking on the play button to go from line to line. And we can check out all the variables declared before the start of that line. To know in what line you're currently at, you just have to look for the little arrow, which will show the current line. To stop debugging, you just need to press on the stop button. So, a few other things to keep in mind while debugging are the following things. So let's say you've started debugging and you notice that you forgot to select a line. Let's say we forgot to select line 5. Well, no need to fear. You can always just add breakpoints and the software will know that it has to stop at it. And so by pressing on the button or hitting F7, you can infinitely loop, which can be quite useful for shorter scripts where you might not want to always stop and restart because that might take some time. If necessary, you can also use the F9 key to go to the next line, and that way you don't have to go and deselect the step or reselect this button. You can always just go line by line if necessary. And so let's say that I'm at this line towards the end, and I realized that I forgot to check out line 6, which is towards the middle, so it would take quite a while to get to it, especially in a longer script. And since what I want is this to see is this function, I can simply select it and press Ctrl-Shift-I, and I can see what it returns. And here we see that it returns null. You have to make sure to properly select, because if you select wrongly, like let's say I forgot a CL there, I get an error. So it's very important to properly select. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that there are two ways to test and debug. One button lets you debug using a specific page, whereas the main debug the script button will take the URL of the site. And as we saw earlier, when selecting clean select price, we had a null, and that's because it's using the URL of the site, which is its home page, and the home page does not have a price anywhere. So in this specific case, when you have specific things you want to debug, you're going to want to use the test page option. And when we select and hold Ctrl-Shift-I, here we have a proper number. So this is very important to keep in mind, because a simple script, such as this one, will not need to be tested on a specific page. But a more complicated script that requires a specific page to work, that isn't the home page, definitely needs to be tested using the test page debug option.